Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to the weekly movie show with the boys Connor.
Hello.
And Benny.
Hello there.
It's a little bit delayed there, Connor. What's going on?
I'm just not paying attention to you.
He's got places to be.
Yeah, he's got places to be
My
and
mind.
things to do.
Off with the fairies.
Just as we're starting the episode. Here we are. It is Tuesday. All three of us are present. This is amazing. This is a miracle. We're sort of 4 on the trot here. I'm very proud of everyone. Mm-hmm. And we have some news to talk about. We've got a Captain Marvel trailer to discuss that has dropped. It's official. And Avengers has not dropped yet. And somebody owes me a steak dinner, which is very, very exciting.
It's going to drop on a Wednesday, isn't it?
It's on a Wednesday. But listen, we got tons of stuff to catch up on, including what we watched this week. And I'm going to go first because, hey, you know, I can do that.
You're the boss.
That's it.
Mm.
Haunting of Hill House is complete. The second TV series I've ever finished. Here we are, people. This is a momentous occasion.
Yeah, episode 1 through to episode 10 in order.
In a linear fashion.
Amazing.
So-
Unlike the show is.
I can't remember. I think last week I had a couple episodes to go. I had just finished episode 6 and I had to,
You're partway through 7, I think.
part the way through 7. Yeah. So I haven't actually talked about it since I finished it as well. So this will be exciting.
We can team up on this.
Should we just jump right into it?
Let's do it.
Fuck it, let's do it. I fucking loved it.
Yeah. Incredible. It met the hype.
Met
the hype
I'm
you
so happy
delivered.
for me. I'm so happy for Mike Flanagan. I'm so happy for you guys.
Game night didn't meet the hype.
Because
Haunting of Hill House met the hype.
I watched this show when it came out so far ahead of you guys, and I was afraid that you were just never going to get to it.
Yeah.
Because I posted in our chat, I was like, you guys have to watch this when I was like halfway through, and you were like, nah, I like the hype. And you were like, yeah, no, I'll get around to it. And I'm like, George.
Yeah.
And then you watched,
You know me, man.
you watched the first one, you dropped off. I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, this is it, I guess.
You
that's
can
it.
see that happening. Definitely.
Sure.
George trying to like watch an
Episodes
episode or
1
two.
to
He's like,
2.
bro, I'm so into it. I think it's really good. And then you talk to him next week and he's like,
Have you watched episode
"What-
3?
How did you get
The
on
Haunting
with
of what
episode 3?
now?
Oh, yeah. I haven't watched that. But you were into it. Oh, yeah. Really
I'm back
into
on
it.
Luther now.
Yar.
Oh, yar. Yeah, look, I'm so into this series. And I'm so excited for him to continue it on, like even in the anthology, so you don't see any of these characters anymore. But yeah, just the way that this was crafted and how it ramped up. I mean, like episode 6 onwards, I think is fucking brilliant. And it's so little to do with the horror aspect from there on in. I mean, there's a genuinely like bowel-inducing scare, I think, in episode 9.
Oh my God.
I think it was 9.
That is the best scare I've seen in a very long time. Quite possibly the best scare I've ever seen.
Can we describe that at all without alluding to
Well, they're
spoilers?
in the
car.
car. In the car.
Oh, that was fucking good.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
'Cause it's such a, like,
Ashley has
Already
been
a great
giving-
scene. And the
Ashley's-
scene that follows.
Yeah.
She's been giving me shit about my reaction. like replaying my
an
reaction.
old man with-
Honestly, dude, bowel-inducing is the word.
So
It's
good.
and it's so
Not
out
a
of nowhere.
word,
I
but
mean,
it's so
It's
good.
a hybrid word.
it's
It's
funny,
like
yeah.
hyphenated.
It's so funny that, like, yeah, as I was saying, like the horror aspect becomes kind of secondary in the later episodes because you're so invested in the story that
The characters, man.
yeah, the characters, you're interested in finding out what's happening. It's tantalizing the way it gives you a little bit more of the story each episode.
Oh, it's so well handled.
And that's what's so perfect about the structure of it is most of the scary stuff happens when they're kids because that's like anyone's life is most of your scary shit when you're scared of things. That's when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And you may carry some trauma on from that in your adult life. But that's how the show works as well. The first half of it is focusing on the backstory for everyone. Then once they get together, it's all about the drama and the character.
Yeah.
And it all coalesces so well.
Yeah, I like the 2 distinct halves. You know, episode 1 to 5, then you had episode 6, which had its own flavor, and then 7 to 10, which had its own thing. But still, I did think the whole time I was very invested in the characters. You know, there was no point where I was like, oh, this is the dip episode. You know, episode 7 where it dips. It held my intrigue the whole way through.
And without doing spoilers, you guys are satisfied with episode 10?
There was
I thought, okay, so the final little bit, I think it was maybe a little too acoustic guitar and everything's going to be good.
It felt earned to me. I was well
did,
and truly
there
on
was-
board with everything.
I
yeah.
That's where I want to kind of reframe my thinking. I'm still like, I didn't hate it, but I'm still kind of figuring it out.
Because I was following the kind of episode by episode thing as it came out, which obviously came out in bulk, but like everyone was watching it kind of together, and people hated the last episode. Like a lot of people did in kind of the community I was following, and I was just like, fuck all of you. I was so into it. Like it worked for me completely.
My hesitation was with perhaps the twist. Well, there's actually kind of two twists. One
twist?
was, see, I don't want to get into spoilers because I don't want anyone that is thinking about watching it ruining it. But
Against the spoilers.
what he sees, if that makes sense.
Stephen.
Yeah, what he sees. That's yeah. I think that's the part that I was kind of like, I saw that coming a little bit. In fact, I saw that coming a lot.
I think it was good though. Like it was a good.
But that's what kind of
Proper
convinced
beat.
me, because afterwards I was like, yeah, it does seem kind of almost too obvious that that's the way that it would have gone. But at the same time, maybe it's obvious because it's the right way to do it.
The story was so well set up, and that's exactly where the story should have gone. Everyone else's problem was with the tone of it, which wasn't my thing.
Yeah,
at all.
it was more tonal for me. But I'm still sitting on it, and it was literally the last 2 minutes where the acoustic guitar kicks in.
I like that
and there's
tone.
a catharsis. There's a cathartic. It's been so on edge the whole time. These characters have been in strife. It's nice to have it all kind of come full circle and feel like a nice bow on top.
I don't know if I don't. That was my original kind of when I first watched. I was like, oh, I don't know if I kind of like. It sounded as though they were just trying to make it a happy ending, I suppose, for lack of a better word. But you know what I did really enjoy of it is that they put a bit of a spin on the way that you envision everything in this series. I'm trying to be as vague as I can for anyone that hasn't seen it. But there was that kind of that spin that I really enjoyed, because you wouldn't have thought. Yeah, I don't know. I can't do it without giving away spoilers. The more I think about it, the more I like the ending. The more it's just a matter of perspective, I think.
I'm very excited to revisit this series. I think you do. You have to see it through twice because
100%.
I think the second viewing would be very different.
I haven't seen anything that lends itself better to repeat viewings this year, and that's a lot for something that's 10 hours long.
Yeah.
One thing that I really, really love about this Netflix format is unlike a normal TV series where you have to hit that 43-minute timeline because there's 17 minutes of ads in the program. In this, some episodes go for 45 minutes, some episodes go for 110. The last episode goes for 110 minutes. That could almost be classified a movie in of itself. I love the flexibility at the creator's hands with the streaming format, and it's a game changer.
HBO started that. I mean, they've been doing that for a decade plus. And I've always respected that so
but
much.
they've never had ads, have they? Because they're
in
that's
between
HBO's things.
shows.
Yeah,
not in the middle of shows.
They hit that exact same sort of like 40 minutes to an hour 10. Like, and I love that. I think that's so.
Can you imagine watching this show
storytellers.
with trailers or with ads in between?
Oh my
I can't
God.
imagine watching any show with ads in
Well, I
between
mean,
anymore.
there's that as well. But I mean, there's obviously, if you watch some older shows on streaming, there's natural breaks that they've created.
Yeah, the fade
arcs to do, and then like it comes back like 2 seconds before.
And you got a little reminder of what was
exactly,
going on.
Yeah. That affects the way that you make a TV show. Like it affects the structure and the plot and everything, because they have to make sure that things fit nicely into 5-minute segments or whatever it is, 7-minute segments. And so you're right. It's incredibly good to have a platform in which you have the flexibility to tell a story in however long it needs to be told. So yeah, I hugely appreciate that.
What are kind of like the top line takeaways for you guys from Haunting of Hill House? What were those things that really stood out to you about the show?
Good character development above anything else. I mean, it was shot beautifully. And I think that the horror was used in a very, I don't know if I'd say sparingly. Actually, I probably would say sparingly. It's not trying to be the scariest thing out there. It's more of an atmosphere than anything else. But just character development. it's the heart and soul of this entire series, and I don't think that it would have been nearly as good if they had skimped out on that.
Hands down, best young to old casting of any show or movie I've ever watched.
Yeah.
The entire cast, the adults, the children.
That can't be true. Looper has got to be the best, right?
Okay, so that's transcendent. That's on its own level. That's a special case.
That's in the Looper level. Come on, we all know that.
No, I think in every single instance, pretty much, like even the father who's played by the little boy who played Elliot in E.T. in the flashback timeline. It took me like 5 episodes to realize it wasn't the same guy. They don't even look alike. I think it's just so well executed.
In episode 10, it became abundantly obvious that they weren't the same. But the whole way through that series, I was like, "Is that the same actor?" It's not. I'm not going to wait for the credits. I'm not going to look this up. I'm not going to look this up. I'm going to sit here in actual like, what the fuck?
Yeah, my first thought on that was like, fuck, that's good makeup they've done on him because they know. Yeah, and
that was it was an interesting choice. I wonder why they did that because they were very distinct from each other.
Yeah, but it works so well in its own way. Yeah,
I think that it would have been a bit too. I mean, if you're comparing those kids to those adults, and then you're going to have like an actor and then an actor with makeup, it might have been painfully clear that the guy with makeup was just in makeup. I feel like you would have just. I think it's cleaner to just have different actors. And I mean, people change quite drastically. If you look at how much the kids have changed, obviously there's more difference between kids and adults than, kind of middle-aged adults and, older adults. But I think that was a good...
It was an interesting choice.
Totally. Most things nowadays will go for aging or de-aging, which, works up and down. But I like the choice to just completely recast everyone.
If you're not Marvel, don't try it. Really?
So yeah, I think that along with the writing and the acting and just overall Mike Flanagan, that was my takeaway from this. Is Mike Flanagan is as if I wasn't already convinced he's the realest of deals. Watching this, I was just like, fuck, he's transcended again.
He's the real deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just quickly, one moment that really stood out to me was episode 4, the floating dude with the cane.
Mm-hmm.
That really, that character, that design, I don't know, man.
Him under the bed and
like that.
I think that was the moment of iconic imagery from this series.
Yeah, like really, really well handled in terms of the aesthetics of the horror and the creature design.
Yeah, when you first notice there's this 9-foot guy a couple inches above the ground just hovering there.
And the way the stick is on the ground and his feet are just floating.
And flawless in execution. I don't know how they did it, but
this is an absolutely flawless movie. I did not see anything remotely that...
And that's what I loved about this film is with the horror aspects, they didn't... I think that they tried to keep it relatively... There's a good balance of like body horror and kind of scare tactics, and nothing was done too extravagantly. So one of my criticisms of it was that the clown, when they wanted to make him scary, they gave him like fangs and they made him like over the top, monstery, which I think is a really ineffective way to make something scary.
A clown's scary already than most monsters.
Yeah, exactly. Like it is creepy. It's not, like when it does its weird thing, it's not scary. And I think that that's a massive takeaway from this because they just let the scary things be scary. They didn't try and overdo them too much. So the floating guy is a perfect example where they just allowed someone in, kind of like just a more pale person to look at someone and allow that to be scary. I mean, it's the suspense that's scary. It's not how disformed someone is.
Yeah. I've also got to say the timeline aspect of the show, how that handles and how it weaves into the story.
Really excellent.
Oh my! I wish we could talk spoilers right now because I just want to gush on this one sequence.
The lost fanatic in me just... has adored every part of that element of this show.
Without spoilers, the Nell episode where you see the final little sequence there. Oof.
Yeah.
Like, holy mother, that is ingrained in my mind. And like the actual shock of what's going on. Like if that to me was the moment I was like, I've bought into these characters.
Yeah.
I'm on this journey. Mike Flanagan. Well done, sir. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next.
I was almost underwhelmed, just only very slightly by that. Just because it's such a built-up moment. I don't think that anything could have ever really lived up to it, which
I've
is why
never
I'm so
seen
only
anything like
slightly.
Yeah, I thought it was
slightly
amazing. I had to sit there for a while before chucking on the next episode after that
I
one.
was
I think episode 5
absolutely
and 6 as like a
blown away.
two-hander. Holy fuck.
Blown away.
Yeah.
Blown away. That's our Haunting of Hill House review, I guess.
Yeah, can we cut that out
Yeah.
and make it to something?
I really like to do a spoiler.
We kind of just jumped into it and we didn't discuss whether we were going to do a separate episode.
We should
for that
do
or-
a spoiler
We'll do a quick.
heavy episode.
I'll
I'd even like
happily
to
do
watch
another
it
discussion
again.
on that.
Let's
Yeah.
just do a
Another
10-minute
discussion.
spoiler episode. We could do it.
We're not going to
perfect.
be able to do that in 10 minutes.
20 minutes. I don't know.
Another thing
Anything
I
else you
watched
guys
this week is that Hobbit documentary you guys mentioned last week.
Oh, you get through it? Nice.
Chuck that on. So for those who didn't listen last week, Benny, you discovered this, right?
Lindsay Ellis.
Lindsay Ellis. She's got a 3-part doc on YouTube talking about the trials and tribulations of the Hobbit that came out in, what was it, 2011, 2012, and 2013. Fascinating insight into, oh man, just like even like the country of New Zealand, the filmmaking industry, actors from countries not as known, and that one guy, like, I don't know, that one actor. He really, that was an interesting
One of the
perspective he
dwarves.
had. Yeah.
Just a guy that just doesn't give a fuck if he ever works
Doesn't
again.
give a
And I was
shit.
so
And he was
impressed
just
with
so candid about his experience on The Hobbit and how
it makes you sad. It makes you sad that this went down that way.
he felt really neglected. And anyway,
Yeah, if there was this one way you can sell the whole thing, and there's so many aspects to it, but it is one of the actors from the production telling just his point of view from it, and it's really interesting.
Yeah.
and not just the filming of it, like the relationship with the studio, post production, release. It's a really interesting piece of work. So thanks for sharing that, man. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
No worries.
Ben, did you watch anything
That's
else
about
this week?
it for me.
I meant to talk about this last week, actually. I checked out the final episode of season 13, I think, of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. One of my absolute favorite shows, possibly my favorite show on the air. And it left me absolutely gobsmacked in a series that has been 13 years worth of complete insincerity and the most insane jokes you think you get away with on TV. It all culminates in this one episode that deals with one of the characters coming out to his father as gay, and it's completely serious and kind of stunningly beautiful. Like, I was in absolute tears. And the performance from that character alone is amazing. But Danny DeVito really reminds you why he is one of the most long-standing and amazing actors in Hollywood. It is one of the most shocking things I've ever seen on TV. It of course means nothing to people who don't watch the show. If you don't, you should. Like, it is a show that you should start at episode 1 and go through all 13 seasons. But there's nothing more I can say about it except I love being surprised by things, and I don't think anything has shocked me more than this episode of this show, which I would have never seen coming.
Really?
Are you a fan?
Never watched a full episode. Not
Me
once.
neither. Me neither.
And it's one of those shows that is kind of imposing in the fact that I know that it's really good. No one really has anything bad to say about Sunny in
But
Philadelphia.
I don't think of that show as a 13-season show. I think of that as a
No one
6-season
would.
show.
Yeah.
For
It's
some
insane.
reason.
It blows my fucking mind. I got onto it when it was already 4 seasons old, which is pretty good.
Was that 2007? That's when it's really started. Like,
Count
everyone.
13 years back from now. I guess.
Well, I can't.
Or 9 years. And it was kind of not. A couple episodes were showing on TV really late night here, and I'd seen 1 or 2, and I got onto it on some website where you could watch them, and I watched them all out of order, and just suddenly became so in love with it. And the pattern's always been the new season would come out, I wouldn't like it as much as the previous stuff. Then the season after that would come out, and I would like everything before that as much as everything else.
Just shifted down season by season.
Yeah, like they'd move into the gold, you know, because it just grows on you. And yeah, I think this is. I can't think of any other show that's 13 seasons long and they're all great. And this is it. Fucking amazing. I also checked out the other night one on Netflix that I'm sure you've all probably scrolled past once or twice, Terrifier, about the clown or mime kind of serial killer. Very striking visuals just on the Netflix interface. I finally thought I'd give it a go. Ultra low budget. Not
promising.
Well, not doing anything new, but probably some of the most impressive gore effects I've ever seen in my life. Like, they've clearly got someone on staff who was amazing at making like cadavers and dummies and just blood and gore. Like, I saw shit in this I will never unsee and have never seen before, and I hope I never see again.
Cool.
It was well worth a watch, and they clearly hired a real mime or clown for the kind of title role, because he was just really he did such a great job, and there was nothing asked of him outside of just being a clown. Like, he's completely silent through the whole thing, but just very effective. I would recommend watching it as in the context of it being like clearly a cheaply made film.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting and kind of beautiful. And I also saw Sorry to Bother You, which is a big one people are talking about this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've all seen the trailer. And you know, you watch the trailer, it's like, oh, here's kind of a Charlie Kaufman, Spike Jonze kind of thing, Michelle Gondry, whatever. That trailer does not give away what that movie is. And I'm not going to say anything else about it except see it.
Great.
It's insane. Like,
awesome. I love those kind of recommendations where like, I'm not going to tell you anything more.
Yeah, you got to say it. You just like me not talking.
So was it a little more more social commentary in there, and less comedy, or what was the dosage?
I'm not kidding. That's my perfect review right there. I just want it to be that.
I will just say the trailer does not mislead you. It just does not hint at what's actually in that film.
That's just a component of the film.
Yeah. I would love to see it with you guys, because that's one of the ones you kind of want to gauge people's reactions as they're watching it. Yeah, it's not going to be for everybody.
I've got to see Creed 2, I've got to see Widows, and I've got to see that one.
Sorry to bother you.
Got any number of ones that I need to see. Okay, so
and Wreck-It Ralph 2, sorry.
Either of you watched Castlevania yet?
Nope.
I watched one episode when my little bro came over, and he was just bagging the shit out of it the whole time. We were like, shut up, man. He's like, this seems really stiff. and he, to his, you know, he had a point. You know, it is not at the same level as some of those animations, but I appreciate what Netflix is doing there. Anyway, have you seen it?
Yeah. I brought it up about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever it came out, and you said that you wanted to do a review. So I was just checking up on it, see if you guys have
probably not going to happen, man.
I keep seeing it on Netflix. I was like,
motherfuckers.
Didn't like the first one enough.
Okay, so I did a bad thing.
Okay.
Apart from finishing Haunting of Hill House, I did a really bad thing, which was I had to stay at home sick one day, and
chucking a sickie
during lunch.
Finally, an Aussie.
I was gonna just watch something for like 20 minutes, right? Because I've been pretty much all my time that's not spent working now has been playing Red Dead Redemption 2, which is fucking awesome, by the way.
I've only heard good things.
You should talk to me then.
Yeah, but I figured, hell, I'll watch something on Netflix for 20 minutes while I eat. And I was scrolling through, and I didn't want to watch anything good because I was only planning on watching it for 20 minutes.
Oh boy. You've already seen
Out of the Shadows that exactly. Day. So I did a bad thing, and I put on Matt Damon's The Great Wall, which is now on Netflix.
Hell yeah.
Have either of you seen this?
I saw it in cinemas.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
George?
Nah, man. Nah,
what did you think of it, Ben?
It was interesting. I mean, it was a watchable Chinese film with American actors. It was just an interesting, unique product.
Yeah. Huh. I thought it was shit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Not good, but
I mean, people's biggest like the only criticism I heard of that film when it came out was the whole whitewashing issue. That's the least of this problem, least of this movie's problems, like by a long shot. It's completely. It doesn't matter whether Matt Damon's white or not. He's shit in this. He's just not good.
I thought you would fucking love this, man.
No, man.
Yeah, I would have thought that.
This movie pissed me right the fuck
wrong,
off,
man.
It's such a basic and uninteresting plot. It's, you know, Matt Damon trying to act as though he's some kind of ruffian that's actually, you know, a bad person, and then, you know, is somehow swayed by seeing people act honorably. And I'm like, it's just like none of it. You don't buy any of it. You don't buy any of the banter. You don't buy any of the
Pedro Pascal's in that, right?
Yep.
I hate him in everything except Game of Thrones, and I hate that because I loved him in Game of Thrones.
I mean, he's certainly not the worst thing in this film, which is probably about as good a compliment as I can give him in this. But just so much of this film, it's so fucking basic. It's so basic it makes me angry, because I think that like the director has done so many films that are just so not basic. I mean, the most famous of that being, House of Flying Daggers. That's a nuanced film. And then along comes The Great Wall, which is like, it's fucking like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's semi all right action.
But it's a product, I think.
But I mean, like, it's so much a product that it just.
And I think that's where all the backlash came. It felt very transparent.
But I think the thing that does set it apart, and I'm not defending this movie, but it's at least it's like, you got 50 shitty Hollywood blockbusters, and then you have this one Chinese one, which is there's at least something to be gained from watching that. I think it's a little different in its own way.
I would have,
I know what you're saying. Like the themes of the movie, at the very least, were very interesting. Like, it was super like propaganda-y, about communistic stuff, which was really interesting to watch.
Communistic, and it was very clearly like Chinese productions have a very, when you watch them, you're like, this is very clearly a Chinese production because they're very much about promoting China and about promoting.
But even in that really fantastical setting, which made it very interesting to watch.
But and that also gets me. Like, I don't like movies that are like fuck yeah America either. Like, it becomes pretentious and over nationalistic. And I just
about like fuck yeah Canada. Do you like those movies?
That's a completely different thing. You know why that's a different thing? Because no one ever takes that seriously.
Because they don't exist.
Yeah. No. There are movies that are like fuck yeah Canada, but they're almost exclusively comedies and like it's almost satirical in that sense.
They're like, oh yeah,
Canadians watch them.
Yeah, what like Dudley Do Right as like the kind of quintessential Canadian film, or Men with Brooms or shit. Like, they're all comedies that are like unique. Like it's no one ever takes that kind of fuck yeah Canada seriously. Whereas you watch that shit that Mark Wahlberg does with what's his face, the director duo.
Patriots Day.
Patriots Day and that fucking oil one, and you're like, these guys are taking themselves real seriously. Like those scenes with the American wave or American flag, in the breeze and all that in the background, slow motion, rise up, and you're like, these guys, like, this is serious for them. This is a thing.
You realize he owns Wahlburgers, yeah? He's a serious dude.
He owns Wahlburgers? What?
his fast food chain, Wahlburgers.
Is that a thing?
That's a thing. There's a reality TV.
Reality
I think his brother.
show,
I think his brother runs it. Like,
there's three of them. There's like the dud brother that nobody knows.
Donnie. No, there's the other one.
No, there's the other one. Donnie knows. Donnie's big.
It's like Hemsworth's. That's the one you don't know.
There's always got to be a dud.
Yeah.
So is that it, dudes? Everyone watched everything?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
Let's jump into it.
Let's launch.
Okay, news. First up, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. They've announced a sequel and an all-female spin-off. Sony has announced this.
We should mention that our Spider-Verse review is up now.
Yes, definitely check it out.
Definitely check that. Or check out the movie as well. Don't even bother with the review. Go straight for the movie
when it comes out.
That's our review.
Yeah.
So this is like what, 10 days before release or something. They've already announced.
The hype is there. And
two other movies.
What is it? 100% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Like, everyone is just giving it a seal of
50 plus
approval.
reviews. Yeah.
Why not ride the wave?
And if you think about how much hate this movie could garner, like, there's a lot of trolls that will hate the fact that there's I was going to say black Spider-Man. He's not black. I think he's Hispanic.
Half black, half Puerto Rican.
Yeah. There's so much room for people to hate this, but I just think that it's such a fucking good movie.
The bigger issue would be Sony making a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah,
which,
and
totally.
I think that Sony kind of navigated that territory really well. And I don't want to say more than that just because I don't want to ruin anything from the movie. I will, however, though, say the all-female spin-off, does that sound slightly...
Ghostbusters-y?
Cynical?
Yeah, the cynical part of me is saying that Sony's going like, you know what's really in? Fucking social justice. Let's make an all-female cast of la la la. And you're like, that seems like a cheap way to get women in, well, just people in seats. And
I can see that side of it, but I'm so far beyond willing to give them the benefit of the doubt at this point after having watched the first one. And I think there's enough seeded in this first film to sustain potentially an entire franchise, like in a similar way to like the Lego movie, and another Lord and Miller production.
Be 100% around.
But
that.
yeah, I mean, any character from this film could sustain their own movie.
Yeah, there's multiple combinations of things you can do with this universe. And I think it does lend itself to that Lego universe where you can have all these different types of characters, different flavors in this crazy animation that they've set up. I'm more intrigued, and we'll talk about this more in the review, but I'm more intrigued that this is done so well with such a zany cartoon style, animation style. It is such a different flavor, and it's really interesting to see that they're going very hard in.
I hope this movie hits it big, man, mainstream. Like it really remains to be seen how this is going to perform. My early predictions, like when the trailer came out like a year ago, were like, this is going to be the biggest thing ever. But that's just because it was stroking my thing so hard. And I'm like, this looks like the best movie that's ever been made.
It is basically made for your sensibilities. So I mean,
but this looks like it could define a generation. This could be one of those films that kids in 20 years' time is like, I remember when that came out and I fell in love with Miles Morales.
Yeah.
He was my Spider-Man.
Totally, which means that it could be a huge failure right now. Like that's kind of where those movies come from. Like so many adults look at this movie and it's like, oh, there's some Spider-Man cartoon. I don't give a shit. Which is so
it's a very close-minded look because
so many people are so anti-animation.
Well, and it's also, I don't think it's closed-minded. It's just that
I think it's closed-minded.
I mean, people only have so much time to watch movies. If we're talking about the broader audience, and it's very like I'd say it's a relatively new thing to have animation marketed towards adults. Particularly with things like Rick and Morty, which it's just clearly not for kids. Like cartoons that are specifically
this is for
adults.
Kids though, and I think
this transcends.
But I'm saying in terms of the entire thing of animation, like anyone who doesn't think The Lion King is amazing, I think is closed-minded and stupid. Like any decent film's a decent film. It doesn't matter what form it comes in.
More so, it's I think you've hit something there within the broader audience. Not being aware that there's a Spider-Man movie coming out. Because I spoke to one of my work colleagues today and I was like, I checked out the new Spider-Man on the weekend.
People have no idea.
And it's like, what? And I was like, it's got Miles Morales in it and this and there's multiverse. And he's like, what the fuck? Who the fuck's Miles Morales? What are you talking about? Get away from me.
I mean, their biggest
You're fired.
Their biggest marketing push has been the Post Malone song, which is everywhere. But I mean, that's a pretty tenuous connection. I mean, I think the risks that this movie runs is that it is, I mean, I wouldn't call Spider-Man niche, but it's you have to be interested in Marvel and Spider-Man, which captures a fairly good chunk of the world's audience, but still it's somewhat specific. And then you also have to within that capture animation fans. And it's not a pretty typical animation style, which is what makes people like you and me love it. But that's not like a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, that looks weird. I'm not around it.
But I think people who aren't into comic book movies and like animation will like this.
I almost disagree because
I think anyone who watched this would like it, and we'll get into the review later. But I just think I know I'm way into this movie stuff. Believe it or not. But I feel like anyone who's seen a Lord and Miller movie should be like, anything that they are attached to, they should be like, I will give that a go.
Yeah, I think with this one, it is so dependent. A lot of the enjoyment that we have derived from it is so dependent on you understanding quite a bit about Spider-Man and the universe that he exists in.
Completely disagree.
Well, there's a lot of in-jokes.
I say that because I watched it with someone that isn't particularly immersed in that universe and doesn't, really wasn't around all. I think she may have watched maybe one of the Raimi films, that kind of thing. Like, I think that because we're so immersed in that world, it's easy to forget that, a lot of this is very contextual. And I think that is, again, it's a risk that it runs because it gives a massive amount of enjoyment to people like you and me, but it also runs the risk of alienating people that are not as familiar with Spider-Man and the way that the Marvel Universe works.
Just don't get people, man. I could watch this movie on mute and it would be the best thing I've seen all year.
Yeah, I can see that. There's an esoteric element to this film with the animation style. It is a new buy-in from the audience. Mm-hmm. This is a very different type of thing, but I hope this breaks boundaries, and I hope this is the beginning. And if this does succeed at the box office, I really hope it does. I'm very, very excited for these sequels, no matter what gender the people are in it. I'm really excited to see more because the animation team on this fucking blew me away. I want to see more.
Seriously, now,
really
look,
wanna see more.
I really, really hope this does well, and I really hope that we see more of this out there. Having said that, there's a little part of me that wants it to just stay this beautiful little artifact.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Like, it wouldn't really disappoint me too much if
like the Lego movie. Like that's like this one could be like that Lego movie. Like that's the one, and everything else from there is on.
I don't know why I feel differently about Lego movie. I feel like the Lego movie lends itself to an expanding universe and just
maybe it's the IP.
Yeah, I don't know, but this one just it seems so unique and beautiful. I just kind of wanted to keep it as this unique, beautiful thing. I don't know.
On to some sadder and almost exactly opposite news. Netflix has cancelled Daredevil following a long string of Netflix Marvel cancellings.
Well, I think following their Disney's close following of our podcast, where they look at what we say and then do the exact opposite. Because I think the last time we talked about this, George, your exact words were like, I take it back. I think that, this is, they're not going to be taking back these properties. They're not going to
after
call
Luke
them back.
Cage. So the last thing that happened was Luke Cage and Iron Fist got cancelled.
No, it was after that when they saw that when I think it was announced that Daredevil was doing really well in the streaming area or something like that, and you're like, oh, okay, like, and we all kind of went like, oh, maybe we were a bit too cynical about
because I thought our final the last word we said on it was like, that's it.
No,
it's all over.
Like specifically, you were like, no, maybe this isn't it. Like I thought, and which is why I thought that this is why I kind of think like Marvel's just looking at what we say and go, no, in fact, it is the last thing. I would take it back.
I don't know if I expressed it, but I feel like my feeling was like Disney's. I don't think this was actually happening, but Disney's shutting all this down. Like we're going to lose all of these, and I feel like it's going to continue. I know I'm pretty sure Punisher's already shooting or shot.
Yeah,
so that's happening. And Jessica Jones is confirmed for a third season. But so is Luke Cage, so I wouldn't be surprised if we lose that as well.
Yes.
I don't know why they would continue on with Jones.
And not Daredevil.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
It might just be money. It might just be, we spent X amount developing this. It depends where you are in the shooting. There's a point in production where it goes, get it out there, even if it's a piece of shit. And try and recoup the costs.
So the official word is that Netflix is cancelling these shows of their own volition.
Lol.
That doesn't mean anything.
But their own volition could be they
have a
pushed
gun at their head
corner.
from Disney.
Yeah. And they're like, you have the choice to have us not pull this trigger. They're like, oh, thank you.
But their official statement on the cancellation was that the Daredevil character will continue. So that doesn't mean anything at this point. But I guess the hope is that Charlie Cox will be able to reprise the role in some other form, possibly on Disney Plus or in a movie.
I feel worried about that guy because, like, what else has he done other than Daredevil? I haven't seen him in much. He's not a household name, and I want him to succeed because he does such a great job in this show. I want him to go to that next level.
Some Boardwalk Empire, I think.
Was he? And it makes me sad to think that this show's done. I have not been as invested in this Netflix Marvel series. You watched season 3 recently. If that's it, are you happy? Was that a fitting? Was there kind of a resolution there, or was it like?
It was fine. If they cut the Netflix Marvel series right now, and I never saw another episode, it's not the worst thing in the world.
But as the universe is going to continue on, I feel like these characters should live on with it. Like as long as the MCU exists, I feel like they should keep the good stuff they have. Like, there's no reason that they shouldn't.
Do you think Disney will do that? Do you think on Disney Plus you'll have a little sort of MA section or something with
I think it
these
needs to be MA, but you can just have, like, Charlie Cox as Daredevil. Like, you can have him meeting Spider-Man. Like, that's something people really fucking want to see. Like,
so you're just saying that he turns up and he's there.
He's Daredevil.
But he's not necessarily another Daredevil series in of itself.
Yeah, well, it could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. Yeah. I'm just saying they have these brands established now. These actors as these characters. These actors are these characters. And with this huge functioning universe they have going, they should pull from everything they have. They should absolutely toss it in.
My concern is that Disney is a PG and an M rated, and for those who are in the UK and US, M rating is a 12 or whatever. They are definitively in that. They never release MA films, so it'll be interesting to see. You know, I agree with you. I'd like to see him stay. He turns up. Jessica Jones turns up. They're in the MCU, yada, yada, yada. But these characters actually getting another series, these Netflix series. We see Jessica Jones season 3. We see Punisher. You know, do we see that on the Disney Plus platform? And my gut feeling says no. I would like to see it. I would like to see it not neutered into less bloody, gory, because that's been the defining part of this show, is the griminess of it. I've really liked that about this series.
But I think you can get away with that without being, you know, exploitative. Like when you look at something like the tone and the feel of Winter Soldier, like any of these characters could fit into that. I feel like you don't need Vincent D'Onofrio chopping off someone's head with a car door in every episode or in every series.
But that, for me, when that happened, I so remember that moment of being like, wow, turn up the heat, Netflix.
Well,
this is hectic.
You just wouldn't be able to have the Punisher. Or
the Punisher is the one, definitely.
Or even Fisk. I think Fisk is defined by his brutality.
But I think you can still, like, we've
brutality.
just recently seen Wilson Fisk in an animated kids movie, and I thought he was still so imposing and so dangerous and scary, but in his own way.
It's very much a different. It's so far removed, and it's a very different character.
Totally, but he's still brutal as fuck. Like, that was still the Kingpin.
It's definitely brutal, but again, in a different way. And I think that...
I just don't think it was in a different way. I just think it was less graphic.
Yeah, I would say. Like, I didn't look at that Kingpin and get the same kind of... just raw anger that I got out of Fisk. There's something... I think that violence, when used properly, and in particular gory violence, when used properly, is incredibly effective, and in this case, his kind of use of raw force and kind of unrelenting brutality lends this kind of feverish nature to the character that is also contrasted by his cool calmness, and that's a complexity that I think comes across because of the use of violence, but also which kind of naturally because there's more time to develop the character. But I don't think you could have done that without that level of violence, and I don't think that you could develop the same kind of character without that level of violence.
Yeah, I know we always have this discussion. I just feel like you can absolutely get away with, like, brutality, shocking even stuff without being super explicit about it. Like when you look at when you look at Nolan's movies, they're all PG-13, but they all have violence and darkness to them.
Yeah.
I don't think you really need the blood and guts in there.
But it's
I think it's a continuity thing for me, more so like
a lot of people struggle with that sort of stuff.
I'm not contesting that you can have brutality or darkness or even grime or anything like that. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. It's more that it is a different type of kind of darkness and brutality, and I think that it lends a different type of nuance to a character. I don't think that you can have the same. I mean, I was trying to think of an example where I was going to say Logan. Yeah, I'd say Logan is probably a good example.
I think that is a good example because in X2, when he really cuts loose in the X-Mansion in a completely PG-13 film, I think that is so effective, and it really shows you that character in an almost completely bloodless way, but you absolutely get the ferociousness of him, you know?
It'll be interesting. Your argument, I can see them working with that argument and still hitting that grime, having that grittiness, but not as bloody. And
I don't think they will, like you're saying, I don't think they will go on, like, you know, season 4 of Daredevil on Disney Plus. Like, I absolutely don't think they'll do that. I just think they'll keep these guys in their back pocket for when they want to throw them in. And I think they should do that.
I agree.
Yeah. I still haven't watched Daredevil season 3, so I'm obviously not that invested.
Me neither. Let's move on.
Next up, more Marvel news. Marvel Studios is fast-tracking Shang-Chi to be its first superhero movie tentpole franchise with an Asian protagonist. The studio has set Chinese-American scribe Dave Callaham to write the screenplay, and Marvel is already looking at a number of Asian and Asian-American directors. So this has come out of nowhere. Like, I surprisingly often hear Shang-Chi mentioned just kind of jokingly, because he's kind of like a Z-list hero. And a lot of people kind of mentioned him during the whole Iron Fist thing when they're like, they should just gone with Shang-Chi to avoid all of this controversy that they had to go through. And just because I don't think you guys know who Shang-Chi is.
The Master of Kung Fu?
I certainly don't. He's the Master of Kung Fu. No, because I know nothing about this guy, so I just wanted to...
I've got Google, so I know exactly who he is.
Yeah. Oh, well, now I've lost the thing.
What do you think has prompted this? Part of me says this is fantastic.
Black Panther.
Let's do it. Yep. Part of me says, wow, Crazy Rich Asians did fucking well this year.
Yeah.
Let's go. Feige sees dollar signs.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I'm all for inclusivity. So more different, let's see different types of racial profiles on the big screen. Thumbs up from me. So let's go.
I come at this from a far more cynical point of view. Like, I mean, not to say that I'm against. That sounds so defensive when you say something.
Careful.
Just walking on eggshells. No, but I tend to feel very cynical when studios do this, just because I feel that studios make decisions based on money and trends, and it's not always what's kind of best for anyone, really. And there was an interesting we were talking about the Hobbit documentary from Lindsay Ellis. Lindsay Ellis, was that? Yeah. And she talked about how studios put women into film and how it's very cold and calculated, and it has nothing to do with them wanting to write, quote unquote, strong female characters. It's very much because they have this sense of, oh, we should put in a female so we can get, because that might attract females into seats. And then you get something like Toriels, which is such a nothing character, but hey, it's a woman in an otherwise male-dominated franchise, so we've done our part.
Interesting how she commented on how she didn't feel like a Tolkien female-written character. Tolkien had a specific way he wrote female characters, and she did not adhere to that format.
Yeah,
and that was part of that studio. Sandwich it in there, hit that demographic. Yeah. We're going to get that demographic in here.
Yeah.
We're going to get them to see the Hobbit.
Sure that we're ticking the boxes. Do we have a female character? And it is incredibly telling that they made her reshoot her scenes to include a love triangle. Yeah. Which she said was the one thing that she asked for her not to be involved in. So that's where I come at this.
And she looked pissed.
She did in that interview. Pissed. She was just like, I asked for one fucking thing.
Yeah.
But Shang-Chi better not hook up with any of the Avengers characters, or else this is all over. No, I completely take your point. I agree. But I just think we've had this discussion before. I think you're looking at it the wrong way, which is, yes, these studios, they are just ticking boxes. They are just looking at what's successful, what's trending. But they pass that off to the creators. And what we have to hope for is that the creators have enough control and the studios meddle not enough that they can do interesting things with this. And, the fact that they seem to be looking for the right people to tell this story is the important part. So, yes, they're doing it for cynical reasons, and that's all fucked, but that's capitalism. That's the entire Hollywood system. But,
demand.
But yeah, if they are kind of spotlighting more interesting demographics we haven't seen before, stuff we haven't seen before, that's so much better than sitting through another fucking Iron Fist, which is the worst thing anyone's ever seen.
I completely agree.
Except for humans,
and
obviously.
The fact they got Coogler in for Black Panther,
Exactly, and that worked out pretty fucking
fantastically.
well.
And that was done with love and care, and it wasn't... Yeah, and you're right.
1/8 the studio budget of...
Yeah, and well, that's a good example, because apparently, I don't remember someone in Marvel wanted Wakandans to speak with a British accent, and Coogler came in and was like, no, they're going to speak with an African accent. And so that they brought an amazing amount of authenticity to that. Yeah. They got the guy who was in Civil War to kind of dialect coach Chadwick Boseman, and that worked out great. So hopefully, if they continue it with that level of care,
authenticity,
then that's all great. And just quickly, because none of us know who Shang-Chi is, in the comic, Shang-Chi is the son of a China-based globalist who raised and educated his progeny in his reclusive China compound, closed off to the outside world. The son trained in the martial arts and developed unsurpassed skills. He's eventually introduced to the outside world to do his father's bidding, and then has to come to grips with the fact that his revered father might not be the humanitarian he is claimed to be, and is closer to what others call him, the Devil's Doctor. He also might be centuries old. The deceit makes them bitter enemies. So that kind of sounds like a Netflix series to me. But the idea of Marvel proper doing like a martial arts hero is very good, because we were all so bitterly disappointed by the Iron Fist. I would love to see them bringing in, like, can you imagine if they got like the Raid guys involved in choreography and stuff?
So do we have any people that we would like to see on this?
The Raid guys.
Yeah. Yes, please.
And get him to do some more shit than in The Force Awakens. JJ, you dropped the ball, son.
Yeah.
Because those guys have so much talent. It's just pouring out of them.
Yeah.
In my head, just because there's not an awful lot of, if you're talking about Asian actors, there's not a lot of people to choose from. I see Lee, I'm not going to get his name wrong, Lee Byung-hun as the lead role in that.
Yeah, from G.I. Joe.
That's one thing he is in, yes.
Yeah.
Do you know, oddly enough, the first thing my head went to was Red 2 for some reason.
Okay, wow.
why.
I forgot there was another Red.
Yeah.
No, that's Spain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So I guess we'll see that movie one day.
Yeah.
2022, here we come.
Yeah. Next up, this one's for you, Georgie. Adult Swim has greenlit a Blade Runner anime set in 2032 entitled Black Lotus. So you kind of mentioned this recently. I feel like you were confused about what you were talking about.
I'm so confused right now.
He usually is.
You
Ben.
kind
What
of said
did I
this,
say?
and I don't know if you just kind of predicted it, but it just kind of just got announced. But yeah, Blade Runner anime on the way from Adult Swim. So I don't know if it's going to be working with a Japanese studio, if it's going to look a little more like
Crunchyroll's on
Castlevania.
it.
But
Crunchyroll. I don't know if they're Japanese actually, but they're a juggernaut in this space.
yeah. So yeah, hopefully they enlist an actual Japanese studio because, like with Castlevania, which Frederator did, they're California based. It
shows.
They've done a good job for kind of trying to imitate something that's not their wheelhouse, but it's just not up to that pedigree.
Which I think I like that the style is kind of being put out there, and more people are getting engaged in it. Like people like me, and I'm not a big anime guy, and I've throughout my life felt as though it is not as accessible. So I think that the Castlevania thing is really cool. Just in defense of that, I suppose. Here's my question to you, perhaps George and you, Ben, is do you feel like Blade Runner is a property that lends itself well to anime?
Yeah.
I do.
Holy shit.
I really do. I think the Blade Runner film has influenced so many things in anime itself. And it's re-influenced things back in America, and it's sort of done this, every pop culture, it sort of sways back and forth. So it's an interesting time to see this. Really, my question is more, yes, aesthetically, this works really well for that, but do we need to see any more stories told in the Blade Runner universe? That's my concern.
Well, there are story tendrils that were in 2049 that were never explored. So I could say, like, there's definitely room for it there. Like, the whole rebellion thing was never explored in that movie.
I mean, do you happen to recall, did you watch the anime short for the last film? Because that was brilliant.
That was fucking awesome.
Yeah, so if they do it at that level.
They're 30-minute episodes.
Yeah, was that set in 2032? Do you have any idea?
Were prequels,
was that the Blackout?
They were all prequels.
Yeah, so that was about the Blackout, which we kind of got name-checked in the film.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was in this period, but I would like to see, honestly, if they just keep telling that story, because I thought that was fucking wicked. All the short films they made before 2049 were really good, yeah. But that one in particular was so visually arresting.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just one of these guys where I get it, put the Blade Runner IP attached to it, but I'd almost rather see this as its own separate thing.
Fair, yeah. That you would never watch.
Then it's just an anime, and they release those all the time.
Yeah.
That's literally what
just
you're
called
talking
Black
about.
Lotus.
So
set
I
in
guess
2032.
It's nothing to do with
There are replicants and there are humans. And
then it's Blade Runner.
I'm coming at it from the other direction, whereas I was terrified that they might make another movie, which obviously is not on the cards. So this seems like a better way for the franchise to still exist.
completely agree.
Yeah,
completely agree.
As a cartoon.
Yeah,
Cool.
completely agree.
Anyway,
Let's move on.
next up, Scorsese's The Irishman will be going theatrical.
It goes theatrical.
Interesting move from Netflix. This is obviously the property that's been in development for ages.
A long time, yeah.
Netflix has kind of been advertising as like a banner show, really, without ever seeing a commercial or an ad or anything like for it. But
is this shooting or anything?
Yeah, shooting.
Okay,
Shooting
so this is
Scorsese,
following.
it's
I think this the interesting thing about this is we did the review for Buster Scruggs last week, and we were talking about how fantastic the Netflix platform is and how they're really strengthening the creators that they have, and we're getting some really high profile guys. It's interesting now that they're sort of going, yes, we want to get this out in the normal release, but we want to give it that Goodfellas, that Casino, go watch it on a Saturday matinee session in the cinema, lights go down, big sound.
Well, it also, I think, displays some kind of awareness on Netflix part, because Buster Scruggs is a movie that is really well suited to a streaming service. Like, just the whole idea of an anthology is not something that, and I mean, you can watch it in one sitting, but it does feel like something you want to watch in your living room. Like, TV shows are the way they are because, they're just designed to be consumed in living rooms and like that. But with this, it feels as though it will suit a film. It feels like it belongs in a theater in some way, shape, or form.
Scorsese is nothing if not cinematic.
Yeah.
So this is following what is happening right now with Alfonso Cuarón's Roma, which is a Netflix film being released into cinemas. I think Buster Scruggs did have a slight limited release in some theaters, maybe just festival stuff. But Alfonso Cuarón's Roma is like out right now in cinemas. And the interesting part is Netflix doesn't want to know box office reporting for it. Like they don't want to. They certainly don't want people to tell anyone, because they're very quiet with their numbers, their viewing numbers. They don't tell anyone any of that shit. But now they're releasing to cinemas. Other people have access to that, and they're just like, shut up, don't tell anyone, don't tell us. We don't care.
I wonder if they actually have the ability to say that, or like even if they have the power, like how would they? Where?
I think this is almost like a marketing strategy for them. That's how they're looking at it. It's like a brand awareness. Let all
secretive.
the old punters know that Scorsese's back with De Niro, Pacino, Pesci. Let's go.
I'd also
That's why
be
I think
very
them releasing movies in theaters is kind of like a trailer for them. Like it goes into
I
theaters.
completely agree.
No one fucking goes to watch it. Like no one's going to go watch a movie that says Netflix on the poster.
But you get it in all the programming and all the pre-rolls. All the cinemas are going to
and then
do
they
a
go
post
home.
on it.
They go home. They're like, oh fuck, this movie was just in cinemas last week. I'm chucking this on.
Yeah,
that's an interesting. I'm very curious to know what the demographic difference between Netflix viewership and cinema attendance is.
About 50 years.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see if there's so much, or there's enough of a discrepancy to justify releasing it on two different platforms like that, just to hit different demographics. Because you might have, some 60-year-old that doesn't even know what the fuck Netflix is. Sorry if you're 60 and you know what Netflix is. My bad.
Extra sorry if you're 60 and you don't know what Netflix is.
Yeah. Well, if
but
they
you
don't
know
what
what
Netflix,
podcasts are.
this entire podcast is real confusing.
if you saw the demographic readouts from them, the 25 to 34 demo would be their highest, and it would gradually slant down. I guarantee you. For Netflix, guarantee you.
Almost certainly.
So
actually, I think it would also kind of go up during kids as well, because they've got like a real strong push for kids. But I'm really curious whether people that are a bit older have any interest in Netflix, because I don't know, and I don't think anyone really knows, because Netflix doesn't release that kind of data.
It's going to be a slower adoption rate. It's the same like mum and dad's on Facebook now, but then they weren't 5 years ago. They weren't.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
You're fucking lucky then, because my parents got onto Facebook fucking early. And
my mum refuses that.
Oh my God.
She outright refuses. Like, hell yeah, mum.
That was, yeah. That's interesting, growing up with your parents as friends. It's not good.
And they're commenting on your statuses.
Oh,
like, go Condor, go.
I love it. I love the support and all that. But it's even with like the podcast stuff, when we first started doing this, they were like front and center being like, well done, son. Oh, yes.
What's the podcast again?
Oh no, that's another story.
Have you had to explain that to many people?
What podcast?
When you say you have a podcast, which
no,
wretch, like it's horrible. I always use that. Like that's the last fact I have about me that I have to drop on people.
What do you do for fun?
Really? That's the first thing
I'm
say.
finding
podcast
things other than that, like, you get to say.
Yeah. Then you get the odd person who's like, oh, yeah, what's that? It's like it's a radio show that's not live and no one listens to it.
I don't think I've ever had anyone ask what a podcast is, but I don't talk to anyone over 40 as a rule. If you look slightly above 40, I'm like,
yeah. If you see any wrinkles, no.
Or gray hair. You're about 2 years from me just not talking to you, George.
Yeah, get your math right, son. We've got one more story here. I don't know why this is in here, to be honest.
Final story, this is a big one. Okay, we're ending on a bang. Jurassic World 3.
We can just not talk about it.
No, we're in now.
No, we're in.
We've tantalized people with Jurassic World 3. People need to know. Will not have any hybrid dinosaurs. Will not have any hybrid dinosaurs, and will be released June 11, 2021. 2021, holy fuck. It's a while away.
It's ages away.
Yeah. So I guess that last one, unfortunately, did well enough to make another one.
Yep. Which I think, George, you said you were actually pretty keen on seeing the sequel to that.
Only because I want to see dinosaurs in suburbia fucking
tearing shit up.
Yeah. Which, I mean...
As opposed to... It has to be done with a post-apocalyptic disaster movie angle.
All right, so can I just mention... And this was... I thought about it when it first happened in the movie, and it came up in an article afterwards, which is that it makes zero sense that, like, 20 or 50 dinosaurs that escape from a compound are somehow going to take over the world. That makes... fucking no sense whatsoever.
I want it to make sense, though.
I want the movie to open with just some army guy, like, bang, blue in the head on the ground, and just be like, man, that was not much of a threat at all. It took down all those guys.
We rounded that up in, like, what, 20 days?
It was just them packing up the jet, cleaning it down, like, putting away the guns.
Wing, like, reared over it. Just like
one human dead body.
Yeah. And
damn
the guy like, tripped and, like, shot himself or something like that. Like, God damn it.
So, yeah, I think, I don't want to defend that movie, but I think there was, like, one shot of people smuggling out, like, DNA, like, a lot of DNA. So that was the idea that would be where the actual crisis came from.
Yeah.
I'm not defending the film because, yes, not a big deal. A couple dinosaurs get out.
I just absolutely... I mean, the fact that I'm going to go back to ranting on Jurassic World 2, but the fact that was a huge dilemma of, like, whether we let these animals live or not, I'm like, fuck. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, it was such an easy call. Let them out into the world or kill them. Like, fucking kill them.
They're just going to go hang in the forest for 10 minutes until the lysine deficiency kicks in and they'll die anyway.
This is not... I don't understand this. But just beyond that, the fact that the next scene was like, suddenly the world is overrun with dinosaurs. I just fucking love that.
I want to see legit, like, Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, helicopter shot comes swooping in, and you have like 10,000 velociraptors just copy-pasted and 10,000 humans just going at it. And I'll be there, man.
And a big T-Rex dressed as Sauron.
Yeah.
Do you know how dumb that is? Like, just the more I think, you know how dumb that is? Monsters fucking exist in the world. Great whites, grizzly bears, alligators. Like, those are fucking... They're fucking monsters. And like, they're everywhere. And somehow they haven't taken over the world. So what chance do you think a fucking couple raptors are going to have? Like, that just... It doesn't make any sense. Sorry, that was my rant.
One raptor, I think.
Fucking, they could have released 100 raptors, and that shit would have been over like last week.
What time is it?
It's trailer time, and we got a trailer or 3 coming at you.
It's 3.
Let's talk about the big one.
The big
up on
one.
The cards. The big boy.
Artemis Fowl.
Captain. Move on over.
Artemis Fowl.
That's really what we're here to talk about. No, it's Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, this is
Bye, honey.
I hope those cats are all right.
Captain Marvel. Covered in blood.
There's a bunch of dead cats.
Yeah. Oh my god. I've actually
not 2 dead cats. A bunch of dead cats.
It's like, where did you find these?
How did you get out the front door?
Like, so innocently slipped out, be like, I have to go now.
There was an accident.
Monty Python.
I actually really want to go check on my boys now. My little boys.
Anyways, at least we won't have to see George's, cringe-worthy Instagram videos of him with his cats anymore.
I put up one video. This guy can't handle it, man.
Riddance.
He can't handle it, eh?
No, I can't.
You're such a lurker. I hate everyone, man.
Because it comes up on my fucking feed.
Piece of shit.
It's not my fault, my friend.
You like it.
Anyways, we're meant to be talking about Captain Marvel, not about dead cats.
Well,
Captain Marvel trailer 2.
Yeah,
just dropped a few hours ago.
I don't know why, but I'm just not as like that trailer before this was so hectic, and I loved the music and I loved the build up. I just feel
I was underwhelmed.
It couldn't handle that hype.
Yeah, for me, I was. This almost feels to me like an extended teaser trailer. Like there's no moment in here other than the helmet when it goes "Yoo," and her hair comes down. I thought that was a cool effect. I appreciated how they did that. There's not really a single moment in here that really sticks out to me. Even the blockbuster video bit in the teaser, that stuck out to me. As you said, the epic music from the last one, that stuck out to me. This one,
the first time you get to see her like using powers, the very slight, when she clocks that old woman, it's just a quick scene. And you're like, fucking what the? There's so much in that trailer that was happening. There's so much that was alluded to as kind of just.
It was very much a setup for this character. It was very much intro this character.
This trailer felt like, do you want to know what happens in this film? Let me tell you.
Too bad. I completely agree. I think there is one moment in this trailer, though, which wasn't a huge thing for me, but I think this was not an accident, is when she goes Super Saiyan at the end of the trailer.
Yeah.
And her hair's just like flowing. Like, that was
cool.
Completely intentional, I feel. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, shit, she's fucking cool.
And the cat at the end with...
which was...
I like that.
But that was such a... I did like it on the second viewing, but it was such a weird letdown for me the first time because I already know that cat from the comics. It's an alien. Like, it has like this weird fucking predator mouth that opens up. And it didn't happen in the trailer. I was like... Oh, okay.
It's just a cat.
It's a cat. Because it was on the first poster, the teaser poster, just off in the corner. And so there were all these articles coming out about this cat's a fucking alien or some shit. And then this trailer was just like, no, it's a cat. Fine.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope this has a little more to it because this seems like it almost feels like a hybrid of Guardians of the Galaxy and Iron Man. It feels like almost like a phase 1 MCU movie. I don't know what it is. Is it the S.H.I.E.L.D. relationship? I don't know. There's something about it that feels...
It feels like the most Marvel film, which is appropriate for Captain Marvel. But it's just like, there's a lot of her throwing CGI out of her hands. And I don't know. There definitely wasn't that moment, was there?
And I mentioned this when we watched the trailer, but I think that I'm a little bit more confident in my guess that the green suit is going to be the more prominent suit in this film.
Here we go.
That's sort of how you worded it, though, the first time, is it?
No.
It wasn't like a 51 to 49% type split.
Well, because after the last conversation that we had, I felt as though I had made a terrible mistake and that it was only going to be featured in like maybe half of the first act. Whereas now I feel more confident that it's going to be at least 2 acts of green suit and then maybe the final act as the colored suit, which is what I kind of originally predicted.
She's got the red one in a lot of the...
Is that what you predicted?
Off-world stuff. Like, isn't the red one in a lot of the flashback stuff? Or
no, I don't think it's in any of the flashbacks, which is why I thought...
Isn't her Mohawk suit red?
No. Well, there's a Mohawk suit that's green, and then there's a Mohawk suit that's red. But the one that looks as though it's in the past is all green.
I'm going to double down on this bet, and I want to jump in with a stake as well, because I think you're so wrong.
Oh, are you jumping in there as well?
Yeah, so you get 2 stakes if you're right.
And you owe me a stake, and we're not.
Do I?
Yeah, you do.
Well, you owe me a stake as well. So
no, I owe you. Our stakes cancelled last time. I'm 1 stake up now. Son.
There's only been 2 bets. There's the DC streaming one.
I have a stake up on you, bro.
No, you don't.
If anyone out there is keeping track, please help us.
Yeah, I'm keeping track.
No, if anyone else who does not have a vested interest in this is keeping track, please.
Yeah, you assumed that they cancelled out because you just assumed that you were right about the costume. That's what you're thinking of as cancelling out, but I reckon that's actually now in contention.
March is coming around soon.
That's fucking right. So if anything, we're even.
Okay.
But I don't want to just cancel out.
Why don't we just go buy each other stakes?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want it to cancel out. I want you to physically pay for my steak. Even if we both go to a restaurant and we both get the same steak, I'm like, I want to look at the waiter in the eye, like, give me his bill.
They arrive and you swap them.
Yeah, it's just swap. Like, I want it to be clear that I have bought you a steak and you have
bought me one.
Yeah. What?
We have nothing to say about this film, do we?
I think it's really sad that I don't have much more to say.
Jude Law is still very mysterious in this movie.
Fuck Jude Law. Get the fuck out of my movies.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Did not like Fantastic Beasts.
What's wrong with Jude Law?
No, he was Dumbledore. I'm pissed. No, seriously, I am really sick of Jude Law. I don't know what it is about him. He really
who else is it that really irritates him? No. There's one other guy that you can't figure out why he's in so many movies. It's the English actor.
Paul Bettany.
Nah.
You name everyone you hate, Josh. We'll be here all night.
Well, I
Mark,
saw
Mark Strong.
Mark Strong.
Mark Strong.
I don't hate Mark Strong.
Not as much as Jude Law.
He's
right?
overexposed. He's overexposed.
Rile on him. Like every time he comes out,
he is
the
heavily
fuck out of my
overexposed.
movies, Mark Strong.
He's been in 2 movies in the past 5 years.
Sorry, the guy is
Unacceptable.
like. It must be such a hard thing to like balance your expectations.
Do you love Jude Law? Like, is he
really
the fucking man?
I really like Jude Law.
What is it about him that
like
you
Jude Law a
love?
lot.
Because I do not.
I've never thought that he's the one that's let down a movie. Like he's always been a really solid player.
He's just Jude Law, though. I never see him transform into a character.
It's like he's just Jude Law. Like
He's not one of those transformative.
Those.
He always has an English accent. I never see him. I'm like, I'm watching a character here. I'm watching Jude Law on screen. I feel like even with someone like DiCaprio, I see that transformation happening. He brings a lot of baggage to the role, yes, but with Jude Law, for some reason, I don't know. I'm genuinely curious about why you guys.
You fucking turn me around, man. Fuck Jude Law.
That's it.
Piece of
I mean,
shit.
I'll give you honest.
guy.
I think that there's if you look at his character in, for example, Sherlock Holmes, because that's just one that he's fairly well known
Yeah,
for.
he had a moustache.
And
Completely different.
Dumbledore, yes, they're both British, but I think those are 2 very distinctly different characters, and they're
forgot he
played
was in
very
Sherlock
differently.
Holmes, I couldn't watch those again. I would just.
They're not great.
I will
they're
listen to
good,
the
though.
soundtrack any day of the week.
Ay.
When was the last time you watched the first one?
Hans Zimmer's best work, man.
Oh, 2009.
I think it's worth revisiting. I think they're entertaining films. And I think Jude Law's really good in them.
And that was the
Anyways.
trailer for
Captain
for Captain
Sherlock
Marvel.
Holmes 3.
Which is coming out.
Yeah, and fuck Jude Law.
Hmm.
Hey, guys, seriously, tell us in the comments. Tell me, why do you like Jude Law? I'm genuinely fascinated. Genuinely.
I swear, it must be so difficult to like be an actor that fits into your kind of like actors that you like. Like, I just want this actor to have more work. I want them to be successful, but they can't be too successful. They can't be Mark Strong successful. Where
I
there
just
are lots
mentioned
of
Leonardo
films.
DiCaprio, probably one of the most successful actors.
But he's hit that perfectly. Like, he's not in too many films.
It's
just
not
in
about that.
narrow little
He's
band.
not overexposed, and he's not the same
It's
thing
not
in
about
every
that.
movie.
You've literally said you don't like Mark Strong because he's overexposed.
I didn't say I don't like Mark Strong. I said he's overexposed and he needs to fuck off for a bit.
This piece of shit needs to go away.
Fuck you, man. That's such a. All right. Now we do now need to talk about Artemis Fowl.
Oh my God. What was up with this trailer? You guys were on your phones for half of it. I was watching you guys on your phones.
I've watched this before.
Yeah, I've already seen it a couple times. Have either of you guys read Artemis Fowl?
Yes.
The books.
Yeah, really
Both
enjoyed
has.
it.
Yeah,
Really
okay.
enjoyed it.
Really loved it when I was a kid.
Yeah, like it was kind of like severely sub Harry Potter level popular, but it was a pretty like it was around.
Yeah.
2001, man. This was the shit.
Actually, in memory, I don't know
In
why.
memory.
In memory. I feel like this was almost before Harry Potter, but I suppose it wouldn't have been.
Yeah. I mean, it was late 90s, I think they came out.
Yeah.
Let's actually have a look.
Good books, fond memories.
Yeah.
Fond Memories didn't explore anything else other than the first one.
I went through the entire series. It was
2001
it was
came out.
distinctly young adult fiction. Or,
Okay,
like,
so
kid
I'm going to
fiction.
come at this first as an outsider because you guys have more to talk about than me. I think chucking Radiohead on a trailer is always a good move because it makes cool trailers.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a cool song and it gave it a cool kind of ethereal feeling to it. And I like the voiceover, the narration kind of thing going, that's a really creepy voice. Like, I don't know what it belongs to or what it means, but it just sounded very different to me. Quite
Yeah, the
unique.
trolls, there's sort of this underground world. I mean, I read this so long ago, so I
Yeah.
can barely remember it, but I just remember these sort of tunnels and these trolls and different characters that live underground. Reminded me a lot. You could sort of, the troll market in Hellboy 2, something similar to that, but maybe a little more like Earth. It's dirt and earth. That's how I kind of imagined it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept. Artemis Fowl is like a young criminal mastermind.
That's right.
And so they play this kind of good guy criminal thing throughout.
That's right.
There's always
Yes,
a worse
yes,
criminal
yes.
that's like really evil, whereas he's just kind of like mischievous. So kind of the Despicable Me style bad guy. I loved there seems to be a lot of backstory to this. Like there's a lot of kind of our favorite word, world building in the novels, and I think there's 8 novels that have been released. I don't think I've read most of them. Okay,
so sorry, just quickly, I was digging down pulling a thread that I feel I heard something about this movie, and I just read that Josh Gad's character Mulch Diggins is infamous for his powerful and deadly flatulence. And
yeah,
so
I'm
done with this film right now.
It's
Josh Gad was enough, but
you know what? I remember so distinctly reading this when I was a kid, and I was like, this is one that can't be put to screen. And I don't know why. Yeah. It wasn't like I was as into movies as I am now, but I just remember this feeling of like, this is going to be a book and that's it. And so I don't know if Artisan Fowls can this make the jump to the big screen? I don't know after this trailer, because
it's doing it.
I don't know if it's going to do it successfully.
Yeah.
I think that this is particularly suited to a book. I mean, it is worth mentioning that Mulch Diggins, that's not the key thing of his character. Like, it's not like he just runs around
farting.
I think that's like
really
someone's found
how he propels
that
himself
aspect of the character, and I thought this will be a cool thing to write, to shit on this. But I mean, that does point to the fact that it is more childish, it is more fanciful, and that always is a risk putting that on screen, because it can just come off as just like a bit just not nuanced, I suppose.
I think this looks very unpolished as well. There was some really dodgy CG coming from a powerhouse like Disney. It looks very uncharacteristic of their work. I really don't think they're putting that much time and effort into this. So I think they're just kind of going, we'll see how we go with Artemis Fowl, but it's not going to be a big money maker like a lot of the other Disney stuff is.
Sorry, just to that point, it's not coming out until next August. So this is a very early teaser trailer. And it's coming directed by Kenneth Branagh, which he's usually pretty damn solid.
Yeah. Very solid,
I would say. Do you guys think this has any potential to be a huge franchise? Like not Harry Potter huge, but they're clearly going for that.
Man, we'll see how the Model Engines goes, because this is
what? No,
that was a joke.
That has nothing to do with it.
It was so deadpan. Jesus, fuck.
I love the way you're laughing. Is like, yes, that was a joke. that was not a serious commentary that I made.
I promise,
right, guys?
Because even for someone who literally cannot read, like me. I know the name Artemis Fowl.
Yeah.
Like, so I could...
This has the...
It's 10 years too late. That's the problem.
Well, there's that, but it's also just... This has all the markers of a franchise that was hugely successful as a book that will not translate well to movie. And that the studio has kind of rather cynically grabbed a well-known name and plastered it onto the silver screen and just figured that will be enough. To be honest, I kind of hope that this does well, oddly enough. Like, I have fond memories of Artemis Fowl, and I like it when these kind of films come about, and they're just a little bit more fanciful and fun, and
And especially something that already has a whole kind of story planned out.
Yeah.
Even if the first one's average, it's kind of good to see that be able to tackle the rest of it and maybe evolve like Harry Potter did. Those first 2 movies suck ass.
Yeah.
And then they get really good.
Yes. Yep. They stumble at the beginning and they improve.
Well, stumble. They did what they needed to do.
And as a whole, they kind of
on average
the entire thing.
As a whole, they're pretty damn good.
They're all right.
We'll see what happens with the Mortal Engines to find out. Will Artemis
linked
Fowl
apparently? Okay, final trailer. Let's get through this in some kind of decent time. Final trailer is Happy Death Day 2. To you. Sorry. This is coming off the back of Mortal Engines, which we'll see how that does. This is coming off the back of...
I don't know.
This sequel seems to have come back super quick after Happy Death Day, which I feel like I only watched last year or the year before.
Last year. Yeah. One of my favorites from last year.
Nice surprise.
I'm really disappointed with this trailer.
Really?
Okay, so I'm going to have to go the complete opposite direction, and then I'm going to let you finish. But I watched this earlier today and thought this is one of the best kind of trailer premises I've seen, in that it seems to be completely expanding on what the original was. Like, yes, it's doing the same thing, but it's like when it just starts out with the roommate guy coming in saying he's doing like that thing. I thought that would be the whole movie, and that was interesting. But still, it seems like you see that contraption in the trailer. It looks like some time travel device. I'm like, they're really expanding on the mythos of this first film, and I think that's the really interesting way to go.
And I think they're doubling down, because if you do a sequel to that kind of film, like that's a gimmick film. There's a mechanic in the movie that defines the movie. It's a Groundhog Day film. It's a well-worn track.
That's the genre.
How do you do a sequel to that? You either have someone else do the same thing. You either have her go back and do the same thing again. I don't think anyone would have really thought about going back to the same day. And I think that's just them being like, fuck it. You know that this sequel has to like it's just going to follow the same path. So let's really dig into that. And
yeah. So it would have been so easy to just do exactly the same thing, but it looks like they're really digging into it. And I like that. And I feel like there are so many Groundhog Day films, and I can't think of any that actually have a sequel. So I'm really interested to see where they can take that premise, looking further into it,
Yeah, I think those are all very fair points. My main concern here is what you mentioned, Connor, is how fast this has happened. Have they cooked up a good enough story, or have they just gone, fuck it, let's do the same day again and throw shit at a wall and let's see what happens? Because I thought the first one was a very complete film, and it is really underappreciated, and it's just kind of like a popcorn horror teen flick, but I think it's a lot more than that. And this one, I almost want to, I always say, don't do the sequel, don't do the sequel. Well, don't do the fucking sequel this time.
Just so we're clear.
I hope you guys are right, though. You guys have brought in some good points, and we'll see.
Just so we're clear, are you doubting our Lord and Savior, Blumhouse?
Georgie.
Maybe.
Heresy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm the first movie.
The speed. If this was 3 years later or 2 years after, maybe. But the speed of this has come out. Have they had the time to actually make something great in the scripting process?
If it was anyone other than Blumhouse, I'd share that same hesitation. But I don't know. I feel like they wouldn't do something unless that there was genuine creative integrity behind it. So this doesn't feel like they've just rushed it out to get a payday. I don't think that Blumhouse doesn't seem to operate like that. And you did you watched the interview or the Q&A with him, didn't you? And did you get that impression that he would have allowed a project to go ahead?
No. He seemed very of the mind that a sequel should happen because there's a reason to make a sequel. Cool. And I'll give him that. And just this trailer just quickly reminded me of how fantastic and watchable the lead was, Jessica Roth. I haven't seen her in anything else whatsoever, but that just really threw me back to like how engaging she kind of was as a lead character. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully it's good.
Yeah,
cool.
I hope so.
So we don't have a question of the week per se.
No, but we've got not a question, a comment. You just said it's not a question. A comment on our YouTube from shogiwar. So shogiwar has basically said, regarding Alita Battle Angel, the source material is great. James Cameron is a fan and put a lot of love into this. They have James Cameron for the story and world building, Robert Rodriguez for the action, Weta Workshop for the CGI. Great cast. So this means great story, great action, acting. Setting, I guess, is the only thing that remains to be seen is the soundtrack. Now, I don't necessarily want to get into the weeds on Alita Battle Angel. We gave our trailer review a couple of weeks ago on that. What I want to get more in the weeds in is the idea of a creative team and the expectation that comes and something on paper versus the final product. And we were just talking about Blumhouse. The fact that Blumhouse is on this, that gives you a seal of approval. It's really interesting, the psychology behind it. Yeah. And the psychology behind shogiwar here saying, like, this is basically set up with all these great people involved. In his opinion, this sealed the deal. Like, this is going to be a great film. And it's just an interesting thought because I do it all the time. We always do it. This person's involved in this. How exciting is that going to be? And it tends to be a disappointment. And oftentimes, my favorite films of the year, at least with last year, was things that maybe I wasn't expecting was going to be great. Yeah. And they actually came from completely left field.
I think the thing that kind of stands out to me with all this is that more often than not, the sum is not the whole is not the sum of all the individual totals. There's a better way of saying that. I just kind of had a mental blank. And basically saying that, like, if you have all these 10 out of 10 talents that are contributing to it, it doesn't always result in a perfect film. And I think that that's a lot to do with the fact that if you have a fantastic, cinematographer and someone that's and a great director, let's say, they might have different styles that don't click together, and what you end up having is this kind of mesh. So I mean, you look at like there's any number of examples of people that do one thing particularly well that when they're mixed with someone else, it just doesn't click, and you don't get the sum of the parts. So yeah, like, and then that's I think I'm very much with you, George, is that even if there are individually great people, that doesn't guarantee a good film.
So many variables. I always say it's a miracle that any movie is good.
Yeah.
Let alone great.
Well, just the ability to be able to look forward and saying, all these things coming together will create this product, this 2-hour product. And you're like, how do you even...
Yeah. The project management involved in a film is something that nobody celebrates, but those people like do an incredible job. Yeah, it's an interesting thought about, I didn't even think about that. Not even like, the CV behind these guys being so great that they must working together. They must be even better than that. Yeah. It's like, what if those personalities don't click? They're all humans. Yeah. Sometimes people move away from projects. I mean, how many times every year do we get this person's, Guillermo del Toro? I mean, we got all those things. These things fall apart for reasons unknown. Sometimes personalities clash.
Also, Robert Rodriguez, not exactly batting 1,000.
Well, I mean, none of these guys are.
And yeah, my comparison that just jumped to me while you were reading that pedigree is the Hobbit trilogy. I mean, you look at any individual aspect of that, it's all great. It's
the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
It's Weta Workshop. That's Peter Jackson, who has proven himself to be able to do
the actors.
They're filming it in New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean, like everything was just that. All those individual aspects were batting for 1,000. And I mean, and what I was trying to say before the actual phrase is that the whole is not equal to the sum of its parts. That's how you meant to say it.
The totals are the sum of the equals.
That literally, there's like 4 keywords, and I was just like, if I say those keywords in some kind
it should trigger something.
If I just start the sentence.
Leap of faith, baby.
There's something about like, I can talk in normal circumstances, but you put this thing in front of my mouth and I'm just like, full sum part total. Fuck. Yeah, so I hope that it works together. But I agree with you, Ben. I think that more often than not, great movies are like lightning in a bottle, and it's just, you kind of just, you get lucky with that many moving parts. You kind of chuck it together.
It happened to work this time.
Yeah.
Well, there we have it. Thank you, shogiwar, for your question. Guys, please do comment on our YouTube channel, because we do like interacting with you guys and answering these questions in the comments on YouTube and on the podcast. You can also hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, all of the social networks except Snapchat. We're almost pushing 30 here, so
what's Snapchat?
We can't be doing that. And he's deleted it. He's deleting it right after this podcast.
No, hit me up on Snapchat.
I'm pretty sure we all have Snapchat. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
George has 2
No,
separate
the
accounts,
podcast
actually.
doesn't have Snapchat.
Actually, I'm pretty sure
I think I've got 3
George
Snapchats.
has like 3 Snapchats. There was a while there where I was being added by George like once a week.
Every 6 months.
And I'm like, what's going on? Like, I already get and I love your
because I never remember the password. Let's just start a new one.
And it'd be like, dude, you just added me on Snapchat again. And you're like, wait, did I? I even got added by because I think we trialed Snapchat for the podcast Strikes Back. And I just remember messaging you like, bro, did you just add me via the podcast Strikes Back Snapchat? And he's like, oh, did I? I was like, yes, you did. Yeah. I love your varying degrees of using Snapchat. It just goes, you'll either get nothing for like 3 months, and then for like a 2-week span, it's just George being like,
it's like
9 Snapchats a day.
It's like a fucking hailstorm.
It's like you just you're going through your phone, you remember you have Snapchat, and you're like, fuck yeah, son. Hey.
Connor, get ready for 2 weeks of hell.
Cats.
Oh man, this guy's gonna get bombarded this week.
Oh, yeah.
All right, go check out our Spider-Man Into the Spideyverse review. and do all the other good stuff that I mentioned before. Tune in next week. It's going to be awesome. We'll be back. Connor, Benny, farewell.